Hello, Steve White's 89, Star Trek's Gatekeeper. I just watched Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 9, Hide and Seek. It was interesting. I had some issues with it, but there were also some interesting elements to it, trying to be positive. Okay, so I'm trying to think which story to pick on first. Well, first off, let's deal with the Borg. Now, the episode starts off with the Queen and her army basically beaming onto the ship and everyone else mostly being off the ship, trying to work out how to stop her from taking the ship. Now, because Girardi's locked down the system, she can't actually use the ship, so she's locked out, and she actually puts the key into a hologram of Elnor, who is running around the ship for most of the episode. And Rios and his girlfriend and her kid beam off and escape, and the ship is basically Girardi's. And Picard and everyone else is being chased through the chateau. Now, it has a good, kind of nice feel to it in a sense that it's kind of horror movie-esque, where the chateau is dark and an old sort of wrecked haunted house sort of building, and the ship is sort of a little bit like Alien in that sort of haunted house sort of way. So there's a little bit of a feel to it, the direction gave and the lighting and the production, everything that kind of was nice, but there are a lot of little issues with things that people did in that battle, which that sort of fight between them that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, Raffi and Seven fought some of these army guys, and eventually they got onto the ship and they found Elnor, and Raffi took a moment to basically use this hologram to apologise for making him stay for her because she was afraid of being without him. He basically says, look, I have his memories and I know all he felt for you was love at the end, so, you know, it's okay. So she has that little moment, which seems very out of place in the heat of battle, but she has that moment. And Seven convinces him to unlock the systems so she can use it to beam all of the Borg Queen's army into the brick foundations of the chateau to get rid of them. But for some reason, even though she has a ship with working systems and sensors, she doesn't beam all the other Borg army guys. There's at least two of them with Dr. Soong, and Dr. Soong's somewhere, like into the brig or somewhere. Why didn't they beam them all to the brig? So there's just some questionable things there. So, and she doesn't get him to lock the ship up again. So eventually the Borg Queen, they have a battle and they get the Borg Queen for a second and she's pinned down. But she uses her tentacles and she injures Seven, and Seven's dying, and Raffi is pleading with her and Girardi's pleading with her, and Girardi actually proposes to her the idea of, let's do this differently. We know how this ends. You know how this ends. You know the future. You know time. You know the reason why you are so obsessed with perfection is because you seem to think if you can perfect the Borg, you'll survive, when we all know you are going to fall because people will resist. People don't want to be assimilated. You can't take this from people. So she proposes, why don't you become a co-op? Why don't you actually recruit people, find people who need the Borg, and have people who are there because they want to be there. Have them join, not be assimilated, basically. So that's interesting. So we can be fairly sure now that Girardi is the Borg Queen at the end, and that she comes back in this new version of the Borg, which wants to work with the Federation, which obviously totally neuters them and makes them not remotely terrifying or scary or anything anymore. So they've totally ruined the Borg on that level by defeated them in that sense and ruined them at the same time. But they were kind of worn out in a way. I kind of would like the Borg to be retired, and if this is the way that we do it and that we get it, it's kind of okay. So she decides to accept this offer and save Seven in exchange for the ship. So they give her the ship and she flies off. And I probably should have gone through different elements of the story differently, so we're not getting to that end before the other ends. But Picard is running through the house with the Romulan Gary Seven, and he's having memories of his mother, and he finally reveals the memory he's been hiding from himself, that his dad would lock his mother away because she was mentally ill and for her own protection, and he let her out one night and she committed suicide. She hung herself in the room with the garden with the glass roof and everything. So that's understandably traumatic, and it's confusing for us who are familiar with Picard's mother, as she appeared in Where No Man's Gone before. Now, she was a fantasy or a memory or an illusion, but that's what we assume she was, an elderly lady, that she lived to be an elderly lady. He said that he often wondered if he hadn't unlocked that door, would she have lived to be an old lady, and that's how he would see her, offering him for a cup of tea and a chat. So they sort of ruined the canon and then kind of tried to restore it in the same sort of scene. But I don't know, it was kind of haunting and kind of disturbing. I wasn't expecting that to happen. And yeah, it was interesting. Now, Rios is sent out of the battle because he's shot right away, and he goes back to Roman and Gary Seven's, quarters, and Lair headquarters, and they stop him from coming back. Eventually, he overrides the system and beams back eventually and saves the day, because Picard eventually gets cornered by Sung, and Rios does save the day, and he beats down like the two guards, but Sung picks up a weapon and he holds it and he says, I guess you don't have to be from the 24th century to fire this. And he says, no, but you do have to have the right DNA, otherwise it's just going to blow up. So he warns him and he throws it away and it blows up. I mean, you could have killed him, you could have blown his arm off. Instead, he runs off, and now he's the threat for the next episode. They have to stop him from trying to stop the mission from going ahead. So they've defeated the Borg Queen in that they have given her a better solution. Instead of fighting her and trying to win and a winner and loser, it's like, let's do this differently. It's an interesting, peaceful tactic, which is sort of like what happened in Discovery, where instead of fighting an enemy, they negotiated and talked it out with an alien and resolved a problem. I like that. I actually like that. It's very Star Trek. It's a bit anticlimactic, but very Star Trek, how they dealt with the Borg. But what else is there? I think we're just left now with what's going to happen next week. I imagine it's going to be some version of First Contact and Operation Annihilate. No, that wasn't the one. Assignment Earth, with Gary Seven, where basically we're going to have Sung trying to stop the mission. Although the Borg Queen did say, we need the mission to succeed. We need two Renees, one who lives and one who dies. I guess for the different timelines or realities or universe or whatever. But Picard is resistant to that, but either way he's too busy just trying to work it out, because she's left with the ship. They're standing in a field out in the chateau with nothing, and Sung is running off, and they basically have to go catch him and stop him from trying to stop the mission. So I think that's about it. I don't think there's any other element of the story. I think I covered everything. There were little things that just frustrated me, like when he warned him that the gun was going to blow up, when he's an enemy who's trying to destroy them and destroy the whole future. It's the same sort of thing with, like, why did he take, the doctor and her son to the ship? Why did he endanger them like that? He apologised for it, but he still did it and had to then fix it and get injured and taken out of the battle in the meantime. So, and why didn't Seven get Elnor to lock down the system once they'd opened it up and beamed the guys off? Why didn't she beam all the Borg army from all around the area, not just on the ship? There's so many things where they had opportunities to fix things and they didn't. And the whole issue of mental illness in the 24th century, mental illness was cured by the 21st century. So Picard's mother wouldn't have gone through this sort of reality. They're acting like they've got no resources and no knowledge. They're locking someone in the room like it's like the 1930s and they've got no resources or knowledge or anything. That's not the case. It wouldn't have happened that way. So it's just this bizarre, gothic, archaic sort of story of tragic mental illness in a time where it wouldn't exist or wouldn't have ended up that way. So it doesn't work. For the most part, it doesn't work. It's problematic. It's got issues, but I think that's it. I think I've covered the whole episode. I feel like I've forgotten a story element. I mean, we had the army basically get beamed into the foundations of the chateau. We had Oh, that was another thing. Dr. Sung, he walks into this giant chateau and he manages to find the one bookshelf that Picard had. It was a secret entry and he went through it. And he manages to look at that one bookshelf and look down and see that, the dust is disturbed, and works out, where the handle is and goes in there. I'm like, that was ridiculous. So there are things like that were just like, please. They were just such bad writing, bad storytelling. You can't get around those elements. But the mother dying was a surprise. The Borg Queen actually accepting the logic of, I can survive and create perfection with compliance as opposed to assimilation and forcing people. So that was interesting. So I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I thought it was interesting, but still had a lot of problems.